Welcome back, students. Now we come to the next topic in theme 3, kinship, caste and class. Next topic is handling text, historians and the Mahabharata. So historians try to see what kind of a story the Mahabharata is, how it was written and through how many years it was written and what kind of language various authors have used. Let's see what are the facts. First point, historians consider several elements when they analyze texts. Historians, when they consider Mahabharata as a source to understand history, they come to the conclusion that many texts have been used to make this story very interesting. Next point, they examine texts written in Prakrit, Pali, or Tamil languages. So, various languages texts have been written and they study these texts to understand the content of the Mahabharata. Next point, they also consider the kind of text. So they consider various types of text to see that what is being said in the Mahabharata comes exactly to the other texts of different languages and tries to formulate what kind of a society or what kind of economic culture used to happen during that time. Next point, they try to find out about the authors as well as the intended audiences. That means they're trying to find out what kind of authors were writing these books and for whom were they writing. Next, they try and ascertain the possible date of the composition or compilation of the text as well as the place. Through this, that the historians try to understand that what could have been the possible date and where could that happen, what time was that and where was the place of compiling these texts, where these texts were written and made. Next point, only after making these assessments that they arrive at an understanding of their historical significance. Only after asserting all these, where the texts were written, what time the texts were written, then only you can come to know about the actual understanding of the Mahabharata and its significance. Now coming to the next subtopic under this topic, come to language and content. What kind of the language and the content of Mahabharata was? First point, the Sanskrit used in the Mahabharata is far simpler than that of the Vedas or of the Prashastis. Next point, come to next paragraph, contains stories designated as the narrative. It is trying to narrate whatever happened during that times with many kinds of stories which are reflecting the views of the society. Next point, contain prescriptions about social norms designated as didactic. Didactic means refers to something that is meant for the purpose of instructions. So it is narrating also and didacting. That means it is giving instruction to the society that such norms, rules have to be followed. Next point, the didactic section includes stories and the narrative often contains a social message. That means didactic section is laying the rules and the narrative portion is giving a social message to the people. Next point, the Mahabharata was a moving story. The Mahabharata fits today also in today's scenario in present form. It resembles the same kind of greed, jealousy, trying to hold on the positions. Such things happen today also. So it is a moving and a dramatic story. Next point, the didactic portions were probably added later. The instructions, the social norms which are being told, giving instructed in the Mahabharata may have been added later on because the Mahabharata kept on being written by different authors on a lot of years. Come to the next page. Next point, was there a real war that was remembered in the epic? Actually, after reading the Mahabharata, the historians try to see that was there really a war which is remembered in the epic. Next point, there is no other collaborative evidence of the battle. Now what historians try to find out, that was there really a war, and if there was a war, what are the evidence to match that war. Next subtopic, authors and dates. First point, the original story was probably composed by charioteer bards known as Sutas, who generally accompanied Kshatriya warriors to the battlefield and composed poems celebrating their victories and other achievements. So maybe the original story was written by the poor people who used to glorify the kings, and these glorifying people were known as Sutas, and they went with these warriors to the battlefield and they wrote poems on them to glorify their achievements. Next point, these compositions circulated orally. That means that these compositions by the Sutas, this went from generation to generation only in the oral form, not in the written form. Next point, from the 5th century BCE, Brahmanas, come to next line, began writing. So from the 5th century BCE, that means from 2500 years before this present period, the Brahmanas started to write these in the form of text. This time the Kurus and Panchals were gradually becoming kingdoms. So during this time, 5th century BCE, two important kingdoms, one is Kuru and the other is Panchals. They were becoming big kingdoms, very important kingdoms. Next point, come to next paragraph. Between circa 200 BCE and 200 CE, the worship of Vishnu was growing in importance. Krishna, important figure of the epic, was coming to be identified with Vishnu. So Krishna, which was, as it is said, that it was an incarnation of the Vishnu, so it came to be regarded as a very important figure in the Mahabharata, and that it played a very important role in the Mahabharata battle also. Between circa 200 and 400 CE, large didactic sections resembling the Manu Smriti were added. So the instructions for society, rules of the society, they were included during circa 200 and 400 CE. So after those 400 years, again for 200 years, these didactic sections are, which were following the Manu Smriti, were included in the Mahabharata. Next point, with these additions, a text which initially perhaps had less 10,000 verses grew to comprise about 1 lakh verses. So the Mahabharata, which was originally less than 10,000 verses, was, after adding on all these didactic sections and different stories together, it became 1 lakh verses, a very big epic. Next point, this enormous composition is traditionally attributed to a sage named Vyasa. So these original Mahabharata was actually written by a person, Rishi, named as Vyasa. For this, I'll just give you brief instructions out here, that Mahabharata, which was less than 10,000 verses, which was actually 8,800 verses, actually was known as Jaya Sahinta. Then after a few years, when there were 24,000 verses in that, it came to be known as, from Jaya Sahinta, it came to be known as Bharat. And when there were 1 lakh verses composed, it came to be known as the Mahabharata. And the Bhagavad Gita is also part of the Mahabharata. Now coming to the search for convergence, that is, does any evidence, do we get any evidence of proof that really such kind of people existed? Was there a battle? What are the proofs we are getting? First point in this, in 1951-52, the archaeologist B.B. Lal excavated at a village named Hastinapur in Meerut, Uttar Pradesh. Next point, the location of the site in the upper Ganga Doab where the Kuru kingdom was situated suggests that it may have been the capital of the Kurus mentioned in the text. So this place Hastinapur, which is in the upper Ganga Doab, this may have resembled with the place actually mentioned in the text, which is the capital of the Kuru kingdom, Hastinapur. So this may be interlinking. Next point, Lal found evidence of 5 occupational levels, of which the second and third are of interest to us. So there are 4 occupational levels, there are 5 levels, and in which second and third are interest to us because these are resembling the period of the Mahabharata age. Next point, Lal noted the houses in the second phase circa 12th to 7th century BCE. No definite plans of houses were obtained, but walls of mud and mud bricks. So there is no clear plan of city building, but there are walls of mud and mud bricks found. Next point, the third phase, circa 6th to 3rd century BCE, houses were built of mud bricks as well as burnt brick. So in the second level, which is coming to the period of 12th to 7th century BCE, there the walls are made of mud and only of mud bricks. There is no baking of the bricks. But the period of the third phase, that is 6th to the 3rd century BCE, we find mud bricks as well as burnt bricks. Next point, socket jars and bricks drains were used for draining out refuse water. Next point, terracotta ring wells used both as wells and drainage pits. So there was planning in the city according to the findings such as socket jars and brick drains were used to drain out the refused water which was used by the people in their daily activities. Then we get terracotta ring wells which may have been used as wells as well as drainage pits. Now we come to the next page. In this, now come to second paragraph. Circle this, Draupadi's marriage. This is very important. Many a times questions have been asked in the CBSE board exam, so need to be very careful with this. Understand the marriage concept of this portion now. Circle this, Draupadi's marriage. First point, an instance of polyandry. So the marriage of Draupadi was a example of a polyandry where a woman is having many husbands. Next point, the authors attempted to explain it in a variety of ways. So now the example of polyandry, that is the marriage of Draupadi, which is in the Mahabharata, historians have tried to explain these in a variety of ways, and the text Mahabharata gives us a detail that it was due to some kind of a previous birth. Whatever she did in the previous birth came with her in this birth, and that is why she had to adopt this kind of a way. Next point, present day historians suggest, come to second line, that polyandry may have been prevalent amongst ruling elites at some point of time. So present historians, they try to suggest that maybe in the society there was polyandry practiced at that time. Next point, many different explanations suggest that polyandry gradually fell into disfavor amongst the Brahmanas, who reworked and developed the text through the centuries. So maybe polyandry was practiced during that times, and as the time progressed and Brahmanas, when they started to write down these in the text, they developed and they did not like this polyandry, so they wanted to write something in that context so that people do not follow the polyandry norm in the society. So they went against this polyandry factor. Next point, the practice of polyandry was and is prevalent in Himalayan region. So we get many examples of polyandry was practiced and is being practiced in the region of the Himalayas. Next point, others suggest that there may have been shortage of women during the time of warfare. Some other historians suggest that maybe there would have been shortage of women during that time, and so the practice of polyandry was practiced. Next point, creative literature often has its own narrative requirements and does not always literally reflect social realities. So maybe the Mahabharata is not an actual literature but a creative literature, and often its narrative requirements do not specify what is happening in the society. So that is why the marriage of Draupadi may have happened, just to make the story a bit interesting. Now we come to the next portion, that is a dynamic text. Now on this also many times question comes that how is Mahabharata a dynamic text? Dynamic means it keeps on changing according to the scenario, and it is prevalent today. It is true to the fact of today's society also. First point, over the centuries, versions of this epic were written in a variety of languages. It has been translated into many different languages. Next point, several stories in specific regions found their way into the epic. So when it was being translated into different languages, local factors of that language were included in that specific language when Mahabharata was written in that specific language. Next point, the central story of the epic was often retold in different ways. The central theme of the story, that is the fight between the Kauravas and the Pandavas, has been told in different ways in perspective of different characters. Maybe for example it is told by Duryodhan in his own perspective, told by Draupadi in her favor, told by Yudhishthir in his favor, or told by Karan in his favor. So there are different views, different methods used to tell the story of Mahabharata. Next point, episodes were depicted in sculpture and painting. So these episodes of the Mahabharata have been depicted on sculpture and paintings so that it is easier to understand. Provided themes for performing arts, play, dance, and other kinds of narrations. So the Mahabharata is providing themes to various performing arts such as plays, dance, and other kinds of narrations which make the society more active towards different kinds of art. Next point, come to next page. Retelling or reenactment of the epic draw on the main narrative in ways. So now in today's scenario, retelling and reenactment of the epic has led to a new kind of beginning, that trying to find new ways to elaborate Mahabharata. Next point, example by Mahasweta Devi, a contemporary Bengali writer known for raising her voice against all forms of exploitation and oppression. Now we get an example of Mahasweta Devi, who is a contemporary, that is present day writer in Bengali, and she is known for raising a voice against the exploitations of the downtrodden of the society. She is trying to take characters from the Mahabharata and try to make fictional documents on the story of the Mahabharata in her own ways. Next point, she works out alternative possibilities from the main story of the Mahabharata. So she tries to make new stories based on the characters of the Mahabharata. Now with this we come to the end of the chapter. Thank you all.